In the heart of the New Mexico desert lies a ruin older than written memory. No graves, no blueprints, no explanation, only 800 rooms aligned to the stars. It was never meant to be a city. It was a message. For over 1,000 years, it waited, buried beneath silence and stone. Until now. Pause, low hum begins to rise. This is not a story about what we found. It's about what found us. In the scorched stillness of the New Mexico desert, where the wind whispers in a tongue older than memory, Pueblo Bonito rose like the fossil of a forgotten intelligence. Its fractured walls, 3 feet thick and blackened by time, loomed like the bones of something once alive. Beneath the high desert sky, the light seemed to bend slightly over its outline, as if the place resisted being fully seen. No birds circled here, no animals approached. The ruins sat alone in a basin of sandstone and silence, guarded not by walls, but by questions no man had ever answered. Once this place had pulsed with life, commerce, ceremony, precision beyond its age. Today it whispered only mystery and dust. Archaeologists had long debated the impossible math of it. 800 rooms, 4 stories tall, and 250,000 timbers, each hauled from forests dozens of miles away on foot, across a sun-blasted landscape. Yet no writing had ever been found. No blueprints, no graves of workers, only geometry and alignment. Everything pointed north. Among the teams sent to uncover its secrets was Dr. Lena Cross, a woman known for chasing ghosts in stone. Her eyes, sharp and unblinking behind amber lenses, scanned every detail as though listening for something beneath the rock itself. Her assistants, bright minds, young and hopeful, moved like eager ants around her, unaware that the desert was watching. It was Jack, the youngest of them, who heard it first. A hum, not mechanical, not natural, but steady. Too soft to be sound, too real to be ignored. He had been brushing away the compacted sand at the base of the western wall of the central plaza, where the outer layer crumbled into fine powder. As he cleared the earth, his trowel struck something, not stone but smooth. It gave a dull, hollow ring unlike any ceramic or mineral. What he uncovered was no artifact of human origin. It was a thin, perfectly oval plate, no thicker than a coin, embedded horizontally into the ancient floor. Its surface shimmered slightly even in the shade, like metal beneath ice. When his hand brushed against it, a gentle warmth pulsed into his skin, not heat but energy. Beneath his fingers, the plate vibrated faintly as if it were breathing. He called for Lena. She arrived swiftly, kneeling without a word. Dust clung to her sleeves as she hovered her palm over the object. Her breath caught. Something about it felt wrong, or perhaps too right, too deliberate. Without thinking, she touched it. The moment her fingertips made contact, the air shifted. The sun overhead dimmed, though no clouds passed. The breeze froze mid-motion as if the world were holding its breath. A ring of sand around them began to tremble ever so slightly. Insects vanished. The nearby instruments on their folding tables let out a soft, synchronized click, every single one shutting down at once. Time in that moment seemed to stretch, like elastic pulled tight. Jack felt it too. A pressure in the ears, a metallic taste on the tongue. The hairs on his arms stood straight, though there was no wind. Lena pulled her hand back slowly, eyes wide. "What is it?" Jack asked, barely able to speak. Lena didn't answer. She was no longer looking at the plate. She was looking past it, at the faint circular burn now forming in the stone beneath, as though something unseen and ancient had been awakened. Something not meant to be touched, something that had waited. Waited for them. That night the desert held its breath. There was no wind, no insects, only a low hum barely audible but constant, like the resonance of something massive moving beneath stone. It pulsed through the ground, through bone, through thought itself. The canyon, once silent, now whispered in a tongue no one could place. Inside the camp, no one slept. Watches had frozen at exactly 3:33 a.m., their hands locked in eerie synchronization. The fire had died without smoke. The digital clocks blinked nonsense. Batteries drained without cause. Even the stars above seemed wrong, warped, as though the sky were underwater, trembling softly at the edges. Something had changed. As if pulled by invisible threads, the team emerged from their tents one by one. No words were spoken. Their eyes were unfocused, their movements hesitant, like dreamwalkers. They returned to the dig site, where the metallic plate now lay fully uncovered, exposed to moonlight. It was no longer humming, it was singing. A faint harmonic chime echoed from it, rising and falling like breath. Its surface glowed with a pale blue light, the kind seen only in deep oceans and dying stars. Then, without warning, it lifted itself half an inch above the earth and projected. From its center, a beam of cold light shot upward, unfolding like petals in the night. A holographic map took shape in the air. Lines of silver fire traced the layout of Pueblo Bonito. The rooms, the plazas, the kivas, but that was only the surface. Beneath the ruins, the light revealed a second city, circular, concentric, etched deep into the bedrock, not carved by hand, designed as if printed directly into the earth. The researchers stood frozen. Jack whispered, "That's underground, that's below everything we've seen." No one responded. All eyes were on the light. It was calling them. The earth itself seemed to guide their steps as they followed the projection to a partially collapsed chamber on the western edge. Recent rains had exposed part of a spiral tunnel, narrow and smooth, too smooth to be natural. The team descended, torches flickering against walls of black glass-like stone, etched with symbols that shifted when viewed too long. The air was cold but not dead. It hummed as if alive. The walls pulsed with pale symbols, some glowing faintly, others moving like ink in water. Spirals, eyes, and forms that defied logic. The deeper they went, the less they trusted their senses. Time moved strangely, space felt bent. At the end of the spiral, they found the chamber, cylindrical, silent, perfect, and in the center, a crystal orb suspended in midair without wires, without sound. It turned slowly, glowing from within. Its core shifted in color, blue to violet, then black, before radiating pure white light. Lena stepped forward. The orb reacted. Light flared not violently, but as a welcoming breath. The walls responded, symbols igniting in concentric rings. Then a voice, not in the air, but inside their minds. It was deep, clear, and not human. "You were never alone." The words struck like thunder wrapped in velvet, gentle but unshakable. Around them, the light changed. The orb projected visions, not just images, but memories, not theirs. They saw star maps so vast they bent the chamber. They saw towering beings of light, six-fingered hands reaching down to guide smaller shapes, early humans. They saw construction not by tools, but by resonance, stone shifting as if sung into place. Pueblo Bonito was never meant to be understood. Each vision burned itself into thought, yet none of it felt foreign. It felt like something long buried was waking up in them, something ancient, and behind it all a presence, watching, waiting. They ran not out of panic, but out of instinct. Something deep in their bones urged them upward, away from the chamber, away from the orb that still hovered, still watched. But truth is not something you leave behind. The moment their boots met the surface again, the world had changed. The canyon, once cloaked in age and erosion, now glowed with meaning. Patterns, etched faintly into the dust and rock, had awakened. Ancient geometry, spirals, hexagons, radial alignments, now burned with faint bioluminescence, only visible from above, as if designed to be seen by eyes in the sky. No human foot could have traced those symbols. No hand could have carved them by chance. Chaco Canyon had never been a city, it had always been a message. The great houses, so carefully aligned, so impossibly consistent, revealed their true form. No longer seen as rooms or homes, they became glyphs, instructions. Each wall, each doorway, each stairwell was part of a language, one that spoke not in words but in light and shape and scale. Now the team saw it. They stood in the middle of a design they were never meant to walk through, but to decode. Lena's breath hitched as she turned in place, her eyes wide, her mind spiraling outward with new understanding. "They built this for someone watching from above," she whispered, "or from beyond." Jack stared at the horizon. A faint pulse still rolled through the dust, timed with the orb's heartbeat far below. Then came the second realization. Their phones. Dead, their satellite uplink. Offline. Their tablets, cameras, voice recorders, silent. Every device, every tool meant to capture or transmit had failed. They were not just off the grid, they were cut from time. As if the canyon itself had severed the cord between them and the outside world. The sky remained still. The stars, though visible, felt distant, colder, sharper. Something about their alignment felt intentional, too perfect. As though the stars themselves had once been used to anchor the map they now stood upon. Lena fell to her knees. She pulled a journal from her vest pocket, one of the few analog tools left untouched, and began to write. Her fingers trembled. Not from fear, but from the weight of knowing. They came, they built, and they waited for us to find them. But what if we weren't meant to? Around her, the others stood silently. No one argued, no one doubted. They all felt it, the undeniable sense that this place was not abandoned. It had simply been paused, and now it had resumed. Far below, deep in the bedrock beneath Pueblo Bonito, the orb pulsed once more. Not with urgency, but with awareness. It was alive, it was watching, and it was no longer alone. From somewhere in the earth, a sound echoed, not a tremor, not a quake, but a low resonance, like a key turning slowly in a lock that had not moved in 1,000 years. The team did not speak, they only listened, and the canyon, for the first time in centuries, began to answer. Just before dawn, as the first light touched the edge of the canyon, the entire camp remained silent. But beneath the layers of rock and dust, something had begun to move. None of the archaeologists knew that what they had awakened was not just ancient technology, but an intelligence. Lena sat alone beside a large stone, her eyes lost in the distance, staring at the glowing walls. Her hand still clutched her notebook, though the words on the page were becoming harder to read. Not because her hand was shaking, but because the ink itself seemed to warp under a magnetic pull. From afar, Jack shouted. He had found a new crack, just opened up after last night's tremor. It wasn't wide, but it was deep. Lena and the others gathered. When their lights shone into it, they saw a void, not a cave, but a corridor. The floor tiles were intact, etched with symbols unlike any known language. They decided to go down. Beneath was a structure that defied all archaeological logic. No erosion, no dust, no insects, no life. Only a dim emerald light pulsed from the stones, and the walls seemed to shift shape when unobserved. They entered a circular chamber with a high ceiling. At the center stood a low stone pedestal. When Lena placed her hand upon it, memories surged into her mind. Not images this time, but sensations. Longing, sorrow, the echoes of a civilization long extinguished. A being appeared in her consciousness, tall, slender, wrapped in shimmering light. It did not speak with words, but sent her a cascade of intense emotions, a warning. They were not meant to continue. That night, the stars rearranged themselves into a new shape. Lena realized it mirrored the star map revealed earlier by the crystal sphere. They had entered the unlocking phase, the moment the message would be complete. Suddenly, sand collapsed like a wave. The ground split open. The team fled the tunnel just in time before the corridor fully collapsed. At that very moment, a device, the only camera still powered by an old battery, turned on by itself. It began recording the canyon, where a light was rising from between the rocks. From deep underground, a structure emerged, not a machine, not a temple, but a massive eye made of light and geometry, slowly rotating toward the sky. Lena whispered, "It's looking toward where it came from, or where it will return." A frequency rang out, not audible, but resonating in every cell. Symbols on Lena's skin, faint marks she hadn't noticed before, began to glow. She had been marked. Then a beam of light shot skyward, not explosive, not blinding, just silent. A signal far above, satellites in Earth's orbit flickered wildly. Monitors at international observatories lit up with a strange new glyph, concentric circles glowing with 3 unfamiliar characters. A reply had been sent. The question was no longer, "Who are they?" but "Have they heard us?" And if they have, how long until they return? No signal, no time, no escape, only the truth, watching us through ancient stone. Maybe we were never meant to find them. Maybe we were meant to remember.